Welcome to the series Aquaculture in the Caribbean. Today we're going to be meeting with Mr. Donnie Bunting, Jamaica's largest tilapia
Further
farmer.
at sea because there's virtually no regulation on no meaningful regulation on Jamaican fisheries. And all sorts of practices are carried out, no regulation. And Jamaicans love wild caught fish. So if a person would intentionally eat the last snapper in the ocean in Jamaica. So it's going to really need some harsh remedies to stop the overfishing, because there's always a market for the marine fish. But I have observed that since the COVID arrived on the scene, that the people are gravitating to the farm-grown fish.
Really?
Why? Yes, I think that people's disposable income has been reduced dramatically since the COVID. So now the people that used to support the marine wild caught fish seem to be gravitating now, because farm-grown fish is less than half the cost per pound of the wild caught. Right?
Okay.
And not only that too, but it's a much more reliable supply. People who trade in fish or restaurant owners, they never know what they're going to get when they go to the beach. But they can come to the farm and get a regular supply of a specific size fish.
Sense. Right, that makes sense. Yeah. So do you think at one point, I remember in the 70s, there were you had switched over to the tilapia, which was more of a red color, which looked similar to snapper, right? Did that make a difference?
Yes, that has made a difference. Much more people want the red one than the dark one. It's sex related, because I noticed that women will not buy dark colored fish.
No, stop it.
Yeah, I have a retail outlet on the farm, and I spend a lot of time in there asking the customers about their preferences. And a lot of the red tilapia have black spots on them or blotches, and the women refuse those fish. And the women want their fish red. And I asked some of them why they insist on the red fish, and they say the black one ugly like themselves. So the people have this concept about the dark color.
The color, the culture. Right.
I find the men are not really fussy about it. Because even the fish higglers who buy fish from the farm and retail them, the females do not want any black fish or any fish with a dark color to come in. They don't even want to sell it.
Interesting.
Yes, and we have men who buy only the dark colored fish to go and resell. So the color is definitely. But I know from experience that women, for example, like red cars, because they say it goes with everything that they wear. So maybe it's a thing with women and red, the color red,
And we digress from fish. So does it taste different? I mean, does it have a different flavor?
They're from the same parents, so they can't taste different. It's just the lack of pigmentation.
The idea, right?
Just a lack of yes. But the eyes, what your eyes see have a lot to do with the appetite eventually.
Marketing, it makes a huge difference.
They see the pink fish as more attractive or more familiar.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Which is what they did in the salmon industry, right? They kind of enhanced the color to make it more attractive for marketing.
Yes.
So you think this is a very appropriate time then for more people, or for the aquaculture industry, to try to get back on track that it was, 20 years ago?
Well, yes, definitely in our situation, we are seeing it, because in the last year we have expanded by about 70%, and we're still able to market the fish quite easily. And I'm planning to go further. When I return in July, I want to adopt a strategy called in-pond raceways, which is going on in the south of US now with catfish farmers. And a lot of farmers in Mexico and the Far East are adopting that strategy. When we were exporting fish from my farm through the Jamaica Broilers Group, we started to make our ponds bigger and bigger and bigger, because we wanted to produce enough in each harvest to run the processing plant for a day. So we started to make our ponds larger and larger. Now that we are back to selling to smaller wholesalers and the retail market, these big ponds are an embarrassment because the time it takes to harvest the fish and the fact that we have to harvest the large ponds over a long period of time is making the large ponds cost of production much higher. And it should be the opposite.
That's what I was wondering. I mean, you would encourage other farmers not to have large ponds, but smaller ponds.
Right. But I'm going to tell you something now that is going to oppose that. I plan over time to open up my smaller ponds into bigger ponds because I'm going to adopt the strategy of in-pond raceways, which is where you confine an area in the pond to 3% of the size of the pond with two concrete walls and screening at the two ends of these two concrete walls. And you put the entire crop of fish into that tank, and then use a water moving device to push the water through between those walls, and then it will circulate right around the pond. So the fish will get the benefit of the entire pond, but they will all be confined in a small area. Why would they want? Okay, the obvious advantage is harvesting. The fish are already harvested, and it takes effort to remove them. But also the feed efficiencies are greatly improved because when you're trying to distribute feed over a 3-acre pond area, it's not very efficient. A lot of the feed goes to waste. A lot of the fish don't get any of the feed. So you tend to get a great variation in sizes. If you have the fish all in one small area, you can feed them to appetite. You know, somebody can sit there and hand feed them onto satiation. You know, which
so you train the fish. You train the fish to come to one area.
You don't have to train them. They're already confined to that small area.
Okay. As opposed to if you normally have without that method and they had just a pond area, how you recommend feeding? Would you feed in one area or all around the pond?
All right. In our large ponds, if you use pelleted feeds, compressed pellets, you are limited to how far out into the water you can throw it.
Right.
So the feed tends to only be around the edge of the pond. So what you find is that the aggressive fish dominate those areas and keep back the less aggressive fish. Now, if you use floating feed, it tends to disperse, but then it disperses according to the wind. The wind is going to push to one end of the pond, so the same thing happens. But when you have them all very tightly packed now, you get a breakdown of the social order. When the fish are packed tight in flowing water, it tends to disrupt their habits of being territorial. So then you find that they will all just eat and spend less time organizing their areas. So when they are tightly packed, it's impossible for them to own a territory. So you find that they will all feed and grow at a better rate. Also, the scientists claim that they grow faster when they are in moving water than when they are in static water.
Yeah, they have more space, more room. So you were telling me before about the industry and your thoughts on growth. How can we get it back before? And you're saying one of the limitations is that the farmers do not record, or they're not taking it as a business. It's like a sideline. Because I noticed in Africa is really growing in terms of, I've done some work in Zambia, and I noticed that the farmers there are really trying to progress in raising tilapia and doing the records. What do you think about Jamaica and the Caribbean? Can it get back to what it used to be? Because I think it's really gone into the sidelines for aquaculture.
Okay, when aquaculture was at its peak in Jamaica, it was being steered by the Jamaica Brothers Group. Okay. And they were basically managing the farms, and the farmers were providing labor. They would stock the ponds with the correct amount of fingerlings and the correct size. They would credit the farmer with the feed. They would direct the farmer as to how much to feed. And then at the end of the crop, they would harvest the crop, and they would give the farmer the difference in their inputs and the output. So of course they were doing the recordation for the farmer.
Oh, I see.
Because they had all the dates and all the quantities available. So the farmers thrived because everything was being recorded and managed.
For them. Okay.
Unfortunately, when they pulled out of the picture, because they couldn't manage the Chinese competition for the markets anymore, and the export markets, the farmers fell back to their old ways. And I think my farm is the only farm that has maintained. I've always been a fanatic about recordation.
Record keeping is really important. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Even before I became a contract farmer, I have on my computer everything from 1992.
Yes, I remember.
Everything. I can tell you which is about how much on any day from 1992 till now. I can tell you how much feed I bought. Any detail you want on my farm from 1992 till now.
Right.
I can give you a very accurate data on it.
So is there any incentive, for farmers farming to get back to the idea that it's a business? Can it be a business, a full-time business in Jamaica?
No, they consider it a business, but management in Jamaica tends to be very lax. I remember when I was the chairman of the Fish Farmers Association, and we would have meetings, and the majority of the farmers used to fail. And when you ask them why they failed, they would all give the same 4 or so reasons. They claim that somebody stole the fish, or they claim that they can't get fingerlings, or they claim that they can't get water, which means they wouldn't get water free from government, or they don't want to pay for it. They would have this list of excuses as to why. But truthfully, when I examined it, the truth was just that they were not managing their farms.
So they wouldn't know. Yeah.
Most of them didn't live on their farm. So they'd leave a poorly paid man on the farm. They would give him the feed. He would have the nets, all the harvesting equipment. He would have people coming to the gate every day asking him for fish. Here's a man who is probably on minimum wages. So the temptation was just too great, They start by losing the feed. Because in every area we had fish farms, you had pig farmers. So,
right. Sorry, went somewhere else.
Pig farms. And then the people who they left responsible would start selling the fish. So the people who were financing the project would get little or nothing out of the crops, but it was just because they were not managing the farms.
Yeah, they're not there. Yeah.
Anybody who approaches me about fish farming, I tell them if you don't live there, don't bother to start.
Yeah.
Because you can't pay somebody to be your security man. Because that person lives in the community. He doesn't want to be seen negatively in the light of his community. So he will accept whatever you're paying him, but he's not going to really make any significance. You have to live on the farm if you want to make money out of it.
So other than that, so some of the other things I wanted to find out, what about in terms of education? Are the farmers well educated about raising fish, in terms of also treatments? How do what about disease outbreaks? How is that taken care of? Who treats a fish and helps with that situation?
All right. I've been farming tilapia from 1974, and up to this day, I've never heard of any health problem with tilapia. I've never ever heard of anybody having any significant.
That's great.
Yes, because most of the farming in Jamaica is done so extensively that the fish don't come into close enough contact with each other to remove their slime. So we tend to not and we must have some extremely hardy species out here. And because we haven't done any importation in about the last 12 to 15 years,
Which is
to me,
great.
yes, and
Yeah.
which I am fighting. You know, a lot of farmers, especially the new ones, come in and think that there's always a quick fix. And so they always think that we can get genetic material that will somehow solve all the lack of management problems. So I keep reminding the government
That has
not to
nothing
do
to do with it. Yeah,
it.
that
Do
has
nothing
nothing.
to do
Management is management, regardless
it.
of what genetics you have.
You can't give a racehorse to a donkey, can't manage it. You know, so even if you find genetic superior material, they can't manage it. Just
Right.
point it.
Yeah, because
And we
that's
do
really
have good genetic
important.
material in Jamaica. If you look at the difference in my feed conversion and growth rate and production per hectare or acre compared to most other farmers, you realize that genetics is not the issue.
No, right.
Mm.
That should
And
be
you
the
see,
last thing.
right, and then you see if you ask them, they pluck all these figures out of the air and claim it's what they're doing, you know. There was an article in the Bean yesterday, and I mean, my WhatsApp has been full all day today of all the more serious farmers, both here and overseas, laughing at the figures that this guy claims to be doing. You know, say he's harvesting 10,000 pounds of fish out of a half acre pond from juvenile to 350 grams in 7 months, which 10,000 pounds. It's not impossible to grow fish to 350 grams in 7 months, but
Right.
10,000 pounds out of a half acre pond with no aeration, that completely defies
Without aeration. Okay.
aeration, yes. And it does sporadic feeding, no special feed. You know, that
Well,
these farmers are
he needs
getting
to
very wide.
document that information.
Well, you know what though? I'm not going to say much yet because the press has a way of distorting figures that farmers give them.
Right.
I have had that experience myself where I've been interviewed and the people who edit the stories completely confuse the figures and painted different. You see,
A different, right?
to the
Yeah.
layman, the figures might not sound right. So then he corrects it to what he thinks is right. So maybe it was the same problem with this young man.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's why recording is really important. I mean, for
Yeah.
everything. So you can actually prove, show these figures.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I say, I think
So,
most people do it because they love it and not because they are really business people.
okay.
I think that I can count on the fingers of one hand the fish farmers who really, really seriously do it as a business.
So for the future, you think, I mean, to be able to start encouraging aquaculture more, and also I'm also kind of interested to always find out at the higher level why, at the university level, is aquaculture being taught? I mean, why is that something that's not done more seriously, do you think? Or is it?
Well, I think that per capita population, Jamaica has a lot of well-trained aquaculturists, but unfortunately, they are not in aquaculture
Or they
because
came on board?
when Jamaica broilers used to employ most of them, and when the Jamaica broilers group got into aquaculture, it encouraged a lot of people to go into that field because they saw, I'm informed in Jamaica that most people prefer to work for a salary than to be entrepreneurial.
Yeah,
So when you
okay.
had a group like the Jamaica broilers group, a lot of young men would go into, men and ladies would go into aquaculture, planning to get into a company like that.
I
Because,
see. Okay.
so once that company folded now, you found that most of those people who were very trained in agriculture, almost none of them went out on their own, and they just tried to get jobs in
A
other.
job, right? Job security. So is the
Yes.
competition with China still there, or how is?
Oh yes. Well, we virtually we can't export anymore. We're not competitive. We
Wow.
just have to concentrate on the local market. And you know, unfortunately, the local market has never got support from government before. Now, I'm trying to get this minister to help us as much as possible. He has made some attempts. He has some TV programs going now, and he keeps putting stories in the press, you know, like the farmer yesterday, to make people aware that aware of the fish, you know. But as I said, I think COVID has been our best friend, because I'm not sure why, but from the week it became clear that Jamaica had COVID, the sales in our retail outlet on the farm have not stopped increasing. So much so now that a year later we are selling 4 times the amount per day in the retail that we were at the start of the COVID.
Wow.
And it just gets stronger and stronger.
Is that for you only, or you think other farmers are benefiting as well?
No. Everybody is experiencing that, because a lot of the people who were out of production are creeping back into production. And what is holding it back is the lack of fingerlings, because the government actually has not stepped up to the plate to supply the increased demand. I hear that they just got a huge grant, but I don't agree with what they are doing with the grant money, because what they're planning to do is put up a very high-tech hatchery with the money, and I don't think they have the
who is going to manage that? Yeah, who is going to manage that?
Right. No, there are people there with the management ability, you know, but it's an attitude thing, you know, because Jamaica broilers tried one of those high-tech hatcheries and ended up costing them about 12 times more to produce the fingerlings than using the traditional extensive methods. So, and they had to do that by paying people big salaries to make it work.
Right.
I don't see the government hatchery finding that sort of dedication to make that high-tech type of hatchery work. I think they'll probably be better off using that money or some of that money to do something like a shrimp hatchery, a hatchery for the Malaysian giant prawn, and make the farmers grow that in polyculture with, because they would be much simpler to spawn and much less costly. Their hatchery would be much less costly than a tilapia hatchery, and it might suit the farmers to polyculture the tilapia and the shrimp, because they wouldn't have to put any additional feed for the prawns, and the prawns would give a nice additional income. And the prawns are difficult to steal, you know, unlike the tilapia.
Right.
So, right. Because you usually have to drain the pond to harvest the prawns, so the farmers would get a free contribution, you know, to the pond if they could grow prawns in polyculture with the tilapia. So I think that they're
started already.
No, I have suggested it. I have suggested it to the person in charge, and he likes the idea. But I don't know. Sometimes when I get these grant money, you're not allowed to manipulate it, you know.
Right.
I'm not sure what is going to happen, but I don't have great hopes of the tilapia hatchery there.
Right. So you need some other alternatives in the meantime to try to get fingerlings.
Yeah. Well, on my farm, I produce my own, and most of the big farms produce their own. I think the 4 or 5 largest farms in Jamaica produce their own. Or have been forced to produce their own, because yes, I've always produced my own.
So things sound positive then.
What's that?
Things sound really positive then. I like what I'm hearing. Like, it sounds positive in terms of the market, at least for the local markets. It's something that farmers can look forward to at the moment.
Yes. Well, what another thing that is happening now, though, is that, you know, the cost of raw materials are climbing rapidly, and shipping and all that have gone crazy. So the feed price is going up dramatically. at present, we actually are importing our feeds because we have gone back into aeration in most of our ponds, and we find that the locally produced compressed pellet doesn't work well with high density culture. So we have had to be importing extruded pellets to feed the fish, and the cost of the feed is twice that because the shipping is so high.
Right.
It is costing us twice as much as the local feed, but the efficiencies are so good that it's actually working out financially better for us. But a small farmer would have a hard time financing the crop with such high price feed, even though he might be enjoying a better return at the end of the day. But they would have a hard time financing a crop, because it's hard to feed.
Right.
Most farms take about 9 months to produce a fish. It's difficult for a man to find the cash to maintain.
So there's no kind of co-op where smaller farmers can buy feed from. No.
Everybody's on their own.
On their own. Isn't that something that should is kind of needed, you think, in terms of? No.
Jamaicans don't do teamwork well at all. Jamaicans are individuals. Look at our track and field compared to our football. The farmers distrust each other, which is one of the big problems with the small farmers in Jamaica, is that they cut against each other and they fight for the higgler market. They undercut each other. They don't work well together at all. And they are very distrusting, When farmers will come to me for advice, but they don't really want advice. They want me to rubber stamp their ideas. And I tell them, a lot of the things that they talk about, I tell them it's not feasible. And whenever I tell them to the recordation, none of them want to do that. So what I tell them to do then, I say, well, just come to my farm when I'm harvesting, and you'll see the difference to what you're harvesting.
Right.
But I know of only one farmer in Jamaica who has really come and tried to imitate what I am doing. And he's probably the next most productive farm to mine. So
it's a serious cultural situation, because we find that in the ornamental industry as well, where it's hard for the farmers to get together and work together.
Yes. Yes, because the market in Jamaica is small, so they're fighting each other for the market. Well, the same thing occurred with the tilapia after we lost the export markets, but because from about 2006 to about 3 years ago, I really couldn't sell enough fish to make any money, but I just struggled on with it.
Right.
But the last years it has turned around, and this particular year very strong. This last year with the COVID, coming right up to today, and it gets stronger and stronger.
Oh, okay. That's really, really good to hear. So you have to try to pass on some of those skills. Hopefully they'll learn from you.
Yes.
We lost you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So
my voice is here. I just relocated. I'm just moving from where I was.
Oh, okay. So no, this is really great insight. I mean, I really enjoy talking to you to find out more about. Like I said, I was working with farmers in Africa, and I found it. I worked with FAO for a while, and I found it really interesting how Jamaica and the Caribbean sort of doesn't seem to be on the radar, and Africa is really getting a lot of input and help to move forward. And I was just curious to find out, what's happening in Jamaica. Will it come back to what it used to be, or this is as good as it gets for aquaculture?
My sort of quiet hope in Jamaica is to find some way to incorporate the capture fishermen into fish farming. Well, the problem is when a guy is accustomed to going out and making money the same
Yes,
day,
that's another
then it will be
cultural situation as well. Yeah.
very difficult to get him to. It would need serious government assistance to convert some of those guys. I was thinking of probably cage culture in the shoreline areas, but then again, the theft and things like
Yes.
that.
Yeah. What do you think
But
about like sea vegetable farming, conch, well, things like that? Do you think they'd be
I've been doing
interested in?
a lot of reading on that recently. But as I said, again, I said I think that would take a fair bit of time to get off the ground. Maybe things like Irish moss, I think,
Right.
because I
Yeah.
believe there are actually some people doing Irish moss harvesting. I don't know if it's culture or whether they are just harvesting from the wild.
Mm-hmm.
And we have had oyster culture in Jamaica forever.
That's
But
right. Right.
but I don't think that's really grown over the years.
Yeah. So there's needs to be more incentive for other aquaculture type farming to kind of help with the fishermen or displaced fishermen to get interested maybe.
Yes.
And women, right?
It would require
As well.
cooperative effort. It would require cooperative effort, and I know that is very difficult in Jamaica. But I mean, I see where there are a lot of people involved in capture fisheries.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the people who make the money in capture fisheries are the people who distribute the fish, what they call the higglers. And
Okay.
they will seamlessly move from the marine fish to the farm-grown fish. Because
Right.
perhaps 80% of the people who buy fish from me now used to buy capture fish. Some of them still do. They will buy 50% of their fish from the seaside and then come to the farm and buy that up. Because they make a much bigger margin on the farm-grown fish than they do on the
Right.
capture fish.
And they're more business people. They're really very, they have, business practices and principles. So they see it more as a livelihood.
They have played a big part in the expansion of the industry because the fish internally into the interior of Jamaica where the people can't even differentiate the species.
Oh, wow.
The people on the coastline know the difference, but the people up in the hills don't
Have no idea.
know it's just fish.
Right.
So what they do is they go up and they sell the farm-grown fish that they get at half the price of the sea fish. For the same price as the sea, they make a huge profit of the hills.
Wow. Gosh. So there needs to be some kind of a campaign also about what you're eating. Like what are the fish species?
I would say the chips like where they fall because you might just arouse things in the other people that they didn't know about before,
Right.
So I would just make it continue the way it is.
Leave it as it is and let it flow.
Interestingly, when the COVID started, I did a promotional video, which I'm sure I must have sent a copy to you.
Yes, I saw it. Yes. I'm gonna.
As to how the fish is grown. And it's amazing how that thing has spread island wide, in WhatsApp and so forth.
Right.
And YouTube, because a lot of people who buy from my retail outlet now tell me that they used to think that the fish are growing in 6 weeks like chicken, full of hormones. When they find out it's 9 months to grow now, they have a much better view.
Right, because it's propaganda is what you hear about aquaculture, and that really needs to be diminished. I mean, in terms of hormones, we don't use any hormones in aquaculture.
Not for growing
supposed to. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of that came from the people who were promoting other cultured species. Because, tilapia has a huge advantage over most other cultured species. You don't have to feed it with other fish. So it's a much more sustainable fish. So I think that, that tilapia has been taking away market share from all the other farm products at a dramatic rate. And so I think it's a competition. I don't want to name any group, but other
No,
groups
but no, but
of
it's important to know that how the fish is grown and it's sustainable. I mean, that's something that we really need to promote, sustainable aquaculture in
yes.
terms of, feed efficiency, waste disposal, all those things. Aquaculture in the US especially has gotten a very bad rap. And
Mhm.
so that's something to dispel, that it's one of the cheapest forms of protein,
The
you
next
know?
issue, the next issue is a first world versus third world because most of the areas that are suited for tilapia culture are in the third world countries, and
Right.
most of the first world countries don't have the correct climate. So it is sort of creating an imbalance where
Mm-hmm.
now the countries that are traditionally the poorer countries are able to be much more efficient with tilapia production, and I think that is causing a bit of a ruckus with the first
Right.
world country.
Right.
So
And
they are
it's
trying
really,
to hang on to
yeah.
salmon and trout because we can't grow those in the warm water here.
And it's more expensive, and tilapia is perfectly nutritious, and
Right?
people can afford it, and it's a cheaper form of protein, which
And
we all need.
the big significance is that plankton makes a large contribution to tilapia food.
Right. It's a
Mhm.
vegetarian diet.
Right. We
Whatever we
can do
feed
a
the
lot.
fish is what we is going into our body, and so that's really important.
Exactly. Yes.
So
But
before I sign off, I
we
want to
haven't done
find out. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say we haven't done enough work on using plankton in tilapia. You know,
Right.
we could do a lot more work in that respect.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And that's something that can be also grown, right? So in terms of
Yeah.
when we're talking about looking at seaweed and sea vegetables, those are the kinds of industries that we should be looking at to make fish food, in
No,
Jamaica.
no, no. You can look at the example of Egypt. It's currently the second largest producer of tilapia in the world, next to China. And in Egypt, farmers grow the tilapia up to between 100 to 150 grams. And fertilization alone in the pond. They don't introduce feed
Look at
until.
that.
But
Wow.
in Jamaica, we feed them from the word go, and we're not really utilizing the plankton in the ponds. As a matter of fact, sometimes we feed them to the point where there's an overproduction of plankton in the pond and destroy the water quality instead of
Right.
utilizing. For example, on my farm, we don't give any pelleted feed on Sunday to allow the fish to graze and the plankton that is amassing in the pond during the week, you know. Simple
Right.
strategy like that.
Yeah, and
And
that's what makes them so efficient as well. You don't have to feed them as much.
right. One of the next biggest farmer in Jamaica, he was getting a almost 4 point something to 1 conversion. And I am getting about 1.3 to 1. And when I realized it, I believe it was because of my using plankton to some extent as a serious contribution to my feed, where I was getting so much better than him. And I have shown him how to strategies, and he told me that he has doubled his feed efficiency
Wow.
since I showed him how to do it. He has reduced now to almost a third of what he was doing before.
So yeah, so look there. So that's very vital. We haven't even touched on that. I mean, there's so much you can talk about how we could be utilizing other ways and finding local ingredients to make feeds instead of importing, and especially for tilapia. So that's another idea. We should
Mm-hmm.
explore that another time. So I want to know before I sign off from you. I think when I was there, you do a fish fry? Did you
No, we have a product called long wheels herb stuffed tilapia and banana leaf. Well, we have now commercialized it. We put it in a vacuum bag instead of a banana leaf and foil. So instead of
really?
having to do it now, you can just pop the plastic bag into a pot of boiling water for 10 minutes from frozen
Uh-huh.
and just rip open your bag and pour it out. And it's ready to eat. And it
So
is
like a
still,
steamed fish?
well, yes, technically steamed twice in the bag. But I mean, it is a winner. The only problem is that we are holding back on the sales of that product because the market for live fish is so strong that
Right.
it is a disincentive for us to process the
Yeah.
fish. But if we
Right.
ever get to the point where we are exploiting the live market and having difficulty disposing of the fish, we have that as a backup because there's a tremendous demand for that, which we are not even attempting to fill because we can't satisfy the live market. So what's the point of pushing another market?
Right.
You know?
So at home, how do you cook? How do you cook this the fish? Do you do like
How
an
do we
escovitch
prepare it?
fish?
No, we use what they call a butterfly fillet or a deboned whole fish. We can debone a fish by making an incision down the spine at the back and removing all the bones from the fish, including the fin bones and the rib bones. Or we use two fillets attached at the stomach, so it looks like butterfly wings.
Oh,
And
interesting.
right, and then now we make a herb mix using onions, scallion, coarsely chopped, Scotch bonnet peppers, a little chicken powder, and butter. And we encase that, fold the fillets over, or in the case of the deboned whole fish, we stuff the cavity with that,
Okay.
and then we put it in a vat bag and freeze it. So then you just drop that frozen product into a pot of boiling water in which you can incorporate your potatoes cooking at the same time in the water,
Oh, that sounds great.
so that you have a meal in 10 minutes.
So when you get back, we have to do an Instagram live cooking class.
Well, I've told you all the ingredients. What is important is the quantities of how much ingredient. And that
No,
one
you
again.
don't. Yeah, you don't
That
have
one
to
we're going to
reveal
teach
that.
you how to,
No.
because
You have to do another class where what you cook at home. What do you do at
yes,
home?
no, when we enter that into competitions and we have never lost to it. So we have to hold the ratios. We have to
Yes,
keep
no, that's
the
your information.
yes, but I can tell you all the ingredients safely. So it
Yeah,
took us a long time to get the ingredient mix correct. It took a lot of time to get it correct.
I
We
can
weigh
imagine.
we weigh with a gram scale the ingredients each time we're doing it to get it perfect every time.
You're a true scientist. Well, it was really nice talking with you. Thank you for doing my Instagram live. And
And thank you for having me.
yeah, this is awesome. And hopefully we can do it again when you get back home.
Okay, right. The pleasure will be mine.
All right, bye.
Bye.